This is what a solo-developed indie game 4 months into the making looks like.
Hi, I'm Lucas Wong, and welcome to the first devlog for my game, Red Tide. In Red Tide, you defend a lonely human settlement called an Emerald Rig on an alien aquatic planet. As commander of the rig, each day you're responsible for assigning the rig's production and installing its weaponry and infrastructure. Each night, you use your weaponry to defend your rig against the Pantoverse, the planet's oceanic natives.
Here's a view of just some of the enemies that you'll be facing in Red Tide. Emerald is the lifeblood of your rig. It is currency. It is an energy resource. It can even be, if you build your rig a certain way, a religious icon. Each enemy that reaches your rig destroys a portion of your emerald. When you run out of emerald, your rig gets destroyed. To maintain a healthy level of emerald, you'll need to set a quota for your rig's inhabitants to produce. But be careful, as higher quotas lower the spirit of your people. Once your spirit hits 0, the rig's inhabitants will go on strike and cease all production for a day or even more. Red Tide is all about balancing these resources as you try to keep your rig and its people alive. As the days pass, enemies will get stronger and more varied, and you'll need to adapt your rig in new ways. Engage in commerce with wandering merchants or shut off your rig to all outsiders. Become a zealous emerald-based theocracy, or tap into the dark powers of the Pantoverse and infuse your defenses with spells. That was only a brief overview of Red Tide's underlying mechanics, and throughout this series of devlogs, I will dive into each of them in more detail. For the rest of this video though, I'd like to talk about the beginnings of Red Tide, how it all got started. So let's go. The backstory of Red Tide is actually part of a larger world-building project that was a longer time in the making. My earliest plans started around primary school. I had various attempts to create a comic series with my friends, and I had to create a larger worldview that encompassed all of them. And while my comics didn't really make it past the first few pages of my notebook, I did retain a lot of the larger world-building ideas in my head and use them as later inspiration. I won't go into these world-building ideas in this video, but I will talk about them in more detail in another video if you are interested. I also took my time in primary school to make a couple of tabletop or board games that were also based off this world building. They were basically all meant to be made and played with the very limited resources of pen and a notebook. This is one of them. That's why I had the stack here. I basically kept track of the information of each player. And this is interesting because I had to keep everything on pen and paper. Every time you actually attack someone, you use a meter like this. And what you do is you close your eyes, and let me demonstrate right now actually. You grab a pen like this, for example. Close your eyes, and you sway it around, right? Okay, stop. And wherever it lands, that is where you'll hit. So this attack did critical ×2. Whatever that means. I kind of forgot the mechanics. I took a lot of inspiration from a lot of games I played at the time. I was really obsessed with Kingdom Rush, this tower defense game. Kind of still am. It's really great. But anyway, for example, I designed this campaign, single player, that you can play through. You can see this map, a lot of the locations, pretty much just straight copies from Kingdom Rush. Pretty cool, I guess. Designed some heroes. Each of them had different abilities. Also heavily referenced from Kingdom Rush, if you take a closer look. Because, and this was something that's pretty disorganized, I kept adding more stuff to the game. Eventually it just evolved into mini games within the actual game. I had like this card game that was also meant to be played with a pencil. It's kind of like Snakes and Ladders looking at this. We didn't use the actual dice, so you had to spin a pen, and wherever the head is landing, that's how many steps you can take. He also had this farm, and this, I guess, was the idea of like having players earn stuff offline. You can spend money to buy different pieces of land. Yeah, so that's an overview of one of my games. Hopefully it's interesting. Moving to middle school, I spent most of my spare time either making new additions to my world or discarding and overturning a lot of the old parts. And looking back, a lot of these efforts ended up being wasted because 1, I never really put a lot of these efforts down on paper, and 2nd, I kept overturning these major parts of my world that it never really got to become more fleshed out. And throughout this process, I always thought that one day I was gonna have to design a complete, detailed world from which I can then start turning it into a comic series or a novel or whatever medium caught my interest at the time. Fast forward to Sky School, and I realized that the perfect world building was never gonna happen. I wanted to make some concrete progress that wasn't just in my head, so I went ahead and started turning my world into a board game. The game was heavily inspired by Root, a board game that I often played at the time, and it emphasized asymmetric faction-based game mechanics. And although the designs were cool, I never really got to turn it into an actual playable version, so that wasn't the exact progress that I wanted. Then in July 2024, the end of my junior year of high school, I finally made the decision to turn my world into an actual video game. Throughout high school, even as I learned game development, I always hesitated to embark on this project because I thought that it would be too ambitious for the current skills that I had in game development. But around this time, I told myself that I could begin with a more simplified, easier version of the project that could achieve some, but maybe not all, of the vision that I had for the game. And if it worked out, I could expand upon that and complete the rest.
The basic direction I had pictured for my game was a tower defense game where you commanded some settlement or ship to fend off enemies. And starting from that basis, I branched out to have a lot of potential ideas largely inspired by the games I played. I'll talk more about the design process of Red Tide in later videos. Red Tide is still early in development, and many of its coolest aspects are still taking shape. Hopefully, this devlog and the ones that come after it will be able to bring you guys along my journey of creating this game. So I'll end this episode how I started it. Welcome to Red Tide. Hey guys, so first off, if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. And because this is my first time making a devlog or just any long video of this sort, if you guys have any advice on what I should change in my next video, feel free to leave it in the comments and I'd appreciate any feedback you guys have. And also, if you guys have any ideas on what I should cover in the next video about Red Tide, you can also let me know. So yeah, that'll be the end of this video. Again, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next episode. Bye.